Showa era Kamen Riders jingles were just like quick sounds for when a Kamen Rider transforms. I mean, they sound fine. I don't think anything is that memorable aside from like the Ichigo transformation when like the belt opens and then the wind spins. Other than that, I can't think of a single like Showa era sound. And of course, the same thing with Kuga and Agito, where those belts, they had sounds too, but they just weren't really jingles per se. They didn't really have voices or announcements or anything like that. They were just like the put on the belt thing, it makes a sound, and then they transform, and then, you know, henshin, and then gosh, oh man, what am I doing on a Thursday night? But Agito did introduce a toy that had an announcement. And Toei looked at that gigantic gun from G3. They looked at that toy and said, hey, we can make money off that. And so they did. When it came to Ryuki the next season after Agito, the V-buckles themselves, the belts, they had sounds, but they didn't have an announcement. I should have gotten my props. The person would just put up their advent deck in front of a mirror, it would make a sound, and then, you know, henshin, and then But what did have sounds were the toys. And with the toys, with different sounds, you can buy different cards. And with those different cards, you get new sounds. So there you go. It's like printing money. And then the show after that, Kamen Rider Phase, did introduce us to a toy or the henshin device that actually had an announcement to go with it. Standing by, complete. I probably should have mentioned that I did not care for the Ryuki sounds or the Ryuki announcer. It was just a guy talking into a mic. It was kind of lame. But hey, we had it. And then Phase thankfully perfected that. Like I said, standing by. So good. That's all you need. I love that. It is such a good announcement. And for most of Heisei Phase 1, that's pretty much how belts were. The belts themselves would have sounds, and the toys would have an announcement sometimes, but Kabuto, it just had sounds. Den-O had an announcement, but it was very quick, and the belt itself had more sounds. Kiva's was kind of okay. I think the sound for Wake Up was probably the best thing out of that show. Wake up! Oh, but Decade. Kamen Rider Decade is where a lot of these modern day gimmicks really came into place. So you have the belt, you have the sound, and then you have all these cards, just like with Ryuki. You get these cards, and every single one of them have an announcement. Kamen Rider Decay. And you could beg your parents for more toys, because you gotta save the world as Kamen Rider Decade, or destroy the world as Kamen Rider Decade, and put those cards in those toys to get a very, very fast sound effect. And it'll probably cost a lot of money, but hey, at least you have a brand new sound, right? I'll probably bring this up in a different video, but man, I just love how accurate the toys are in the Japanese shows. Because in Power Rangers, if you buy, like, let's say the Dino Charge Morpher toy, like this toy itself, the show has completely different sounds. It is a completely different guy announcer, and it always bothered me that the toy sounds were different from the shows for some reason. I don't know why they didn't just do that. And of course, Heisei Phase 2. Where you get a plethora of sounds, a lot of sounds. You get so many toys that I said the word plethora, so that means you get a lot of sounds. Cyclone! Joker! In Kamen Rider Double, the toys themselves actually had the sounds built in, while the... I just realized I could have just gotten this. So this is pretty much just a hollow piece of plastic. there's like no electronics in this, but the toy itself would have all the lights and sounds and pretty much everything you want. So you just put that in, and then they would make all the cool sounds you see on the show and stuff. And I do much prefer if the gimmick had the sounds. It would cost a little more money since it would be the electronics in there, and they would most likely be like bigger toys. But I do prefer if the toy itself made the sound. And I know that's kind of weird because if the gimmick made the sound, then that means the belt itself is going to be hollow and it's not going to have that many sounds and gimmicks to it either. But I don't know. I just kind of prefer if the toy like had a cool sound, and if you can just like play with it for a little bit by itself. You don't need a whole belt, and you can just play with that little gimmick. And I also prefer when the announcements are short. I think Double perfected it like to the best. I think Double does the jingles the absolute best it can. You just press a button, you put it into the belt, transform, there you go. Those jingles were meant to be kind of like commercial in a way. Like a lot of the commercial sounds were what inspired the O's jingles. I think Forze's is one of the ones that I enjoy the least, because as much as I like playing with the Astro Switches themselves, the sounds just they just don't grab me. I'm not the biggest fan of them. I don't think they sound lame. I just don't think they sound cool either. 3, 2, 1. But that also might be because I don't really like the driver. I think the driver is way too bulky and overly designed, I guess, in a way. So, hey, good thing I don't have a Forza driver, right? But if a jingle was to be longer and, you had to have this whole, like, toy advertisement to it, I think Wizard does it very well, too. I think Wizard has some of the best jingles out there. The voice really does make a good jingle. It does make a very good announcement. And if the jingle that follows up is not as epic, hey, at least you can recreate the voice. He. That is just so addicting to say. So I think Decade is where a lot of the modern gimmick started, mostly with the sounds. And then Double was where it started more of the gimmick part of it, where you can buy more of these gimmicks. And I think that's where the announcements were perfected. Wizard is more in the middle. I think Wizard does them very well. And if there was like a baseline for announcements and jingles, I think Wizard would be it. And then Gaim is a step above that. Orange. Lock on. They're not my favorites as much as Doubles are, but I think Gaims are pretty much almost there. I think if there was like a combination of either a long, cool, amazing jingle and announcement, I think Gaim would pretty much be pretty much there. Which brings me to say that I think Drive is okay. I like the voice, at least. The jingles that come after the transformation, they're whatever. But I do like the voice. It is Mr. Belt. You can't go wrong with Mr. Belt.
Drive! Type Speed!
Have I talked about how much I love the Ghost Driver yet?
Kaigan Musashi! Keto Tsubat Chokengo! Edison! Robin Hood! Hello, Moride Ao! Newton! Ringo Garaka! Kiyosemaka!
It's perfect. Everything down to the last minute detail. Perfect. Ooh, X-Aids. X-Aids is a ginormous hit or miss, for me. Oh man. It's like either I love every single thing about a certain element about the driver, or I just don't like it, and I want to destroy whoever thought of the idea to make a giant husk of plastic like this.
Mighty Action X! I'm a Kamen Rider!
I know I said for the double driver that I don't mind that it's a piece of plastic, but I think Xade's gamer driver is too much of a piece of plastic. It is a bulky thing, and it is right there, and I don't want to take it out, because have you played Jenga? If you play Jenga, if I take that out, everything else is gonna fall, so I'm keeping it back there as punishment. The gashats themselves aside, because I don't like the look of gashats either, I at least absolutely love a lot of the jingles. I think Xade has some of the best jingles too. The Do Re Mi Fa Beat gashat was one of the first things that a fan ever gifted me, like ever since I started this channel. So it has a special place in my heart. Also because it is one of my favorite jingles ever, like top 5. I love the Do Re Mi Fa Beat jingle. I also have the Poppy one, but it's like somewhere there, and I do not want to get up because my legs fell asleep. But the Poppy one is also so cute. I love the Poppy Do Re Mi Fa Beat jingle.
That's the cutest fucking thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
So those were my favorites, but then one of my absolute least favorite jingles, like just ever, of all time, is the proto version, because it is off time, it is off key, and it is supposed to be that way. But that doesn't mean I don't like it any less. It is just a really, really ugly jingle. I think one of the best parts about Xade's toy elements is that you hear the main jingle. Like, I'm sure you know the main jingle that I'm talking about. Like, if I bring up the Mighty Action X jingle, you know it's the Mighty Jump, Mighty Kick. You know it's that one that I'm talking about. Just in case you have two gashats in the gamer driver, they have a separate jingle for that. And I think that is one of the coolest things ever. A lot of them aren't in the show, of course, for those reasons. They don't always put two gashats in the same driver. But it is very, very cool that they did that. Even if you don't hear it, they still use a lot of those sounds for even like the Legend Rider gashats. Ooh, Build has some good ones too. Like, I think builds are very addicting to hear. You can just, I could just sit down, put on some headphones, and just listen to some build jingles.
Are you ready?
I've also said several times before, aside from my love for the Ghost driver, I also like a lot of the Geo driver elements. I like to compare them between Xade and Geo because a lot of things I don't like about the Xade driver actually love. It's my opposite thoughts about the Geo driver, because I actually do like the Jiku driver a lot. It is very clean. It is a very sleek driver. And that also goes with a lot of the sounds. But I also think Geo has some of the coolest standby sounds. Waz, I just need to say Waz, and you'll immediately know what I'm talking about. And also one of the best jingles of all time, this one I'll say like top 2 even, is Grand Geo. I really hope I'm editing this well enough where I can show all of it. Otherwise, I'm just gonna stay here so that way copyright doesn't get to me. Gates Majesty is also a really cool idea in concept. But the jingle itself, I think, is like a few steps below the Grand Geo one. It is still a good jingle. I just think it's not as good as Grand Geo. Well, so when I say certain seasons pretty much perfect jingles in certain ways, whether it's just the announcements or the jingle itself, or even just like the look of the driver and how they work together for the transformation sequence, I think the Reiwa era is experimenting, but also keeping things pretty much the same. I don't think anyone's going to argue with that. It is experimenting, and I think those experiments do very, very well, to the point where if I don't like them, I just really don't like them. Fortunately, 01 does have some very, very good jingles.
Authorize.
A jump to the sky turns to a rider kick.
One of my favorites does go with the philosophy of double, where the announcement is very short and the jingle is also very short, and it is a very fast transformation. And that one has to go to Ichigata. I just love the announcement of
Cyclone Rise!
At the very beginning of the video, I said that I love long transformation sequences and jingles, and I do. I think Grand Geo, like I said, is like one of the best jingles ever. Kamen Rider X8 VR Gamer, I think had one of the longest jingles before Grand Geo, and I still love the VR Gamer one. But to everything, there's an exception. And as much as I've been enjoying Saber more than ever, I am still not the biggest fan of the announcements and sounds.
かつて全てを滅ぼすほどの偉大な力を手にした神獣がいた。ブレイブドラゴン。
Revice is also a similar thing. I do like the announcer for Revice, but I don't like the jingles themselves.
Lex!
It mostly has the same issue I have with Saber, in that it mostly is just like noise to me after like a certain point. Like after like the Rex, come on, Rex. After that, it's just noise, and I'm not really that big of a fan of it. I mean, I know there is a rhyme and reason to how these sound. There is actual like music theory going on with these sounds. But to me, otherwise, it's just like, since I've been bringing up that I do like how Double does their sounds, the Geats jingles are very similar in the way that they just have the announcement. And then when you actually like use the buckle and transform, it does have like a very short jingle too. And that's honestly one of my favorite things about the Geats driver. It is very simplified, but it is very cool at the same time.
Set.
One of my biggest fears actually was that in the trailer for Geats, when we hear the transformation for the first time, I honestly thought that the jingle was going to be way longer, because that's kind of what they did with Ghost and Saber, and that the trailers would have like really short jingles just for the trailer, but then when you actually like watch the show, the jingles they're just much longer. But Geats, thankfully, the jingles are very short. They are very cool sounds.
Top 20 favorite jingles.
セブン進化 I'm Shimio. Rogue 2 Roibatsu 2 Roibatsu Stage 1 to 2 Kamen Rider 02 It's never over.
Gazer, log in.
Mighty Novel 俺の言う通り Mighty Novel 俺のストーリードレミファソラシド OK ドレミファキこれより切除手術を開始する愛情のドラゴン勇気のドラゴン誇り高きドラゴンエモーショナルドラゴン黄金の最強ゲーマーハイパー無敵エグゼ
The rider kit increases the power by adding to brightness.
Shining Hopper! When I shine, darkness fades. Rise! Realizing Hopper!
The sky turns to take off toward a dream.
Kamen Rider! Cross Saber! 尊敬の窮地きらめく星たちの奇跡とともに高き力よ勇気の炎クロスセイバークロスセイバークロスセイバー交わる10本の剣
There, I talked about jingles for like half an hour. Boost and Magnum. Get ready for... Alright, I'm gonna go back to Tears of the Kingdom now. Hopefully nothing else falls.